It's the final episode of Ms. Marvel, and Kamala's ready to don her costume and be the superhero she is. Now she has to deal with damage control, Cameron's new powers, and introducing herself to the world. Speaking of introducing yourself, I'm Chris Goodmakers, and I'm here to break down the exciting finale. Spoilers ahead, intrepid viewer. Let's start this meal with dessert and talk about that post-credits scene and what it could mean for Kamala and the upcoming feature, The Marvels. Kamala is in her new costume resting on her bed when her bangle begins to glow and she is suddenly swapped with a very confused looking Carol Danvers. This could mean one of two things. Firstly, Kamala has transformed into Carol. This has some comic basis as Kamala's comic-based power features shapeshifting. When she first received them, she even found herself suddenly looking like Carol. When the woman who is possibly Kamala climbs out of the closet, her hands are glowing purple with Kamala's show powers. However, it's her reaction that makes this unlikely. She seems confused and unfamiliar with her surroundings. She looks at all the posters and fan art of herself and hurriedly rushes out of the room. It's more likely this is a function of the Negaband's ability to transport their subject to and from the negative zone. In the comics, the bands were first put on the original Captain Marvel as a trick to send him to the prison void. He remained stuck there for a little bit until Rick Jones found another pair. When he put them on, he swapped places with Mar-Vell and freed him from his prison. The same thing could have just happened with Carol and Kamala. Since it happened at this random time and not when Kamala first put on the bangle, it's probably due to something Carol did. I guess we'll have to wait and find out, but hopefully Kamala hasn't suddenly found herself on Battleworld. I hope she had a big breakfast. She's gonna need the energy. Okay, so another big bombshell has also been dropped on us in this last episode. When the story flashes forward a week later, Bruno, Nakia, and Kamala are all talking about who will inherit Cameron's sweet ride. Bruno also casually drops the bombshell that Kamala is genetically different from her family. He then says her genes have a mutation. There's even a familiar musical sting that happens when he says this ominous word.
Like a mutation.
Note how he didn't say, your genes are inhuman. Marvel chooses their words very carefully, at least judging by how long it took Bruno to say it. If Kamala is a mutant and not an inhuman, then it's the most ironic shit Marvel has ever pulled. Back when Kamala was introduced in the mainline comic, she was part of the so-called Inhumans push. Remember that Terrigen mist that spread over the world? While it gave latent Inhumans new powers, it also proved deadly for mutants. This was the core of the X-Men vs Inhuman event. In reality, it was an attempt by Marvel to distance their brand from Fox's X-Men franchise. Now that they own Fox and the X-Men once again, it seems they're quick to shrug off the old Inhuman aspect of the Marvel Universe. I don't blame them. That show was awful.
If you saved one life, well, you saved the world.
Now that the series has ended, it's a good time to talk about something I thoroughly enjoyed about this show, and also why it's important for future MCU projects. While there has been talk of incursions from the Nor dimension and piercing the veil, in the end the series boiled down to Kamala learning about her family's history and protecting a fellow teenager from some feds. It's more grounded and lower stakes for the story, but that's often far better than when entire worlds or universes are at risk. While Infinity War and Endgame threaten all life itself, Ms. Marvel kept the threat closer to home. It's hard to wrap your head around all of existence ending, but I don't want Cameron to die. Sure, he's a little edgy right now, but remember when he jumped off that roof?
What are you gonna do?
The Department of Damage Control ended up as the final antagonist of the series, with the racist Agent Deaver leading the way. Deaver and Damage Control still have a larger part to play in the story of Phase 4, and Ms. Marvel sets them up to potentially play bad guy to the X-Men. Mutants and the X-Men are hated and feared by those they protect. One result of this is government agencies rounding up and imprisoning mutant kind. Damage Control could play this role with how they treated both Cameron and Kamala. Deaver is relieved of duty for creating a PR boondoggle for the department, but I don't think that's the last we have seen of her. After all, Isn't the Contessa running around collecting disgruntled former government agents? Contessa's maneuvering could place Deaver in charge of the D.D.O.C. The department would then be refocused on hunting mutants. Mark my words, I've been right before. After the cold open, there's an establishing shot of New York. It looks like the idea to attach Captain America's shield to the Statue of Liberty has been completely scrapped after the ending of No Way Home. I guess it was kind of a controversial project to begin with. Kamala's echoing her web-slinging peer across the river when she saves the crowd from an errant damage control vehicle. The way this scene is shot, with the car flying towards the crowd only to stop at the last second, echoes the various car catches in previous Spider-Man films. First seen in Spider-Man 2, it's since been sort of a staple for wall crawlers. It looks super heroic, and it always earns you big points with the person who is about to be squished. After Kamala has saved the day and gained the full acceptance of her friends and family, she takes some time to stare across the river while sitting on a lamppost. This is a recreation of the iconic cover for Ms. Marvel, issue 5. Hopefully Adrian Alphona got more for his contribution than just an Easter egg and a firm handshake. It looks like Kamala has been paying attention in school. Way back in episode 1, when she's talking to Mr. Wilson, he mentions that she's had a rough week. We see a quick montage of disasters, including Nakia and Kamala's failed science experiment. She must have remembered what she did, because they recreate the experiment to slow down the team of D.D.O.C Cape Killers. This time it's on a much larger scale. Kamala's getting an F now, for sure. So Kamala has her brand new superhero outfit, and everything has come together nicely. As I mentioned last week, her new red scarf is from her friends in the Red Daggers. Bruno put together her mask, and her symbol was chosen by her mother in a touching moment. Her S symbol is filled with hidden meaning. Maniba was inspired by Kamala's broken necklace. The symbol remaining is actually the Arabic symbol for K. Now, her emblem stands for Kamala, as opposed to the S in Miss Marvel, which is kinda dumb if you think about it. We also learn her name has several meanings in her home languages. As her father explains, it means both perfect and Marvel. So her K both stands for Kamala and for Marvel. That's way better than when Superman said his S stands for Hope. Hope begins with an H, Clark. Kamala's new outfit also has several nods to her hero, Captain Marvel, and to her first cosplay. The biggest feature is her shoulders, which have the exact same red shoulder pauldrons as both Kamala's first costume and Carol's own supersuit. Despite how great this outfit is, it looks like Kamala is set to get a different one for her big screen debut. It's a shame with how much thought went into this look over the season. Hopefully she retains the domino mask, because as I explained before, it's a rare thing in the MCU. This is a little nod to the Avengers, but Nakia has a sudden craving for shawarma at the end of the season. Granted, it's 1 week after their big battle, but she and Tony Stark apparently share similar post-third act cravings. Just don't let Najaf know you're stepping out on his falafel. I hear it's the best in New Jersey. The D.D.O.C has been known to commandeer technology that's been previously successful against superheroes. They were already using Mysterio's old Stark drones to hunt and track superpowered individuals. Now it looks like they got their hands on General Ross's old sonic cannons. The device that nearly defeats Kamala is the same one Ross tried to use to stop Hulk's campus rampage. Both times it was unsuccessful, which means Kamala's constitution is a little on par with the Hulk's. At least, in this one instance. It also makes her dad's cosplay a little more appropriate. This is some possible foreshadowing, but when Kamala calls Kareem for help, he's gazing over their secret map. As established a few episodes ago, the map tracks Noor and clandestine activity. Since we last saw the map, it has now changed. The tracking circle is now over Asia. This could be a setup for more mutants, or perhaps something involving Shang-Chi. This may not be the last we see of Kareem or the Red Daggers, and they may even appear outside of a Miss Marvel story. Kamala is already off on her next big adventure, and Maniba's gonna be very confused why there's a blonde lady in Kamala's bedroom. This series was surprisingly refreshing when it comes to the recent Marvel shows and films. It's nice to have a series that returns to the core of what it means to be a superhero. Personally, I'm counting the days until Kamala Khan's return, but until then, that's a wrap on my Miss Marvel coverage. Thank you for following along with me, viewer. It's been a lot of fun talking about this series.